Now I remember like watching like old like 80s movies and stuff like that, and they would always feature like, VR headsets and stuff like that. And now this is like the dawn of the VR age, where we finally have technology where it could put you inside of the video game.
Virtual reality started off as something kind of obscure that was experimented with, but not too many people were talking about or really even taken too seriously. There were attempts to make virtual reality an actual reality, but the timing just wasn't right. But now in the year of 2018, it seems that every major gaming company has to have some form of virtual reality in order to stay relevant. A few years back, many people doubted it would make it as far as it did, so that raises the question, how much further will it go? Does it only have to appeal to gamers, or is there a bigger demographic for VR than we expected? We want to find out what people think of virtual reality and where those opinions come from. What use could virtual reality have, and what problems could come up in the meanwhile? The truth is, in many ways, VR has already started to find purpose outside of the field of gaming and into education and the workplace. From simulators on the dangers of texting and driving, to programs that help people with mental disabilities get jobs.
Take it from me, as someone with a high-functioning form of autism, one of the best ways that I retain knowledge is when it's usually it's like when it's on like a monitor screen, like a video or like something in print.
A big part of looking at virtual reality and its future is to acknowledge its current demographic and what its potential demographic could be in the future. Who does virtual reality appeal to? In what ways could that demographic be expanded upon into the mainstream world? While conducting this research and asking several people questions, all of which had some form of experience with VR, there seemed to be an overwhelming amount of support for it being expanded upon and its potential benefits.
I do believe that virtual reality will help outside of entertainment, especially in the medical field, because I believe they would be able to perform surgeries or see how they can perform surgeries before they actually do it on a patient.
There's one game in particular. It's a VR Diner Duo. It's basically just like a huge cooking simulator. So you get the anxiety that comes from working in a restaurant.
We could use VR to maybe help see loved ones more besides Skype, make them feel like they're actually there.
You can take like a college student or something like that and have them put on a VR headset. And, you're talking about the Civil War, and you can basically transport them to the Civil War, and they could almost see kind of firsthand a reenactment of, what happened. And people have social anxiety and stuff like that. They go to a party, they don't tend to interact with a lot of the people there because of that social anxiety. But when you put on the headset, you're in the comfort of your own home, speaking to these what could be just these avatars. Plus you could connect with loved ones that you can't see because they're halfway across the globe, but with VR technology they could be placed right in front of you, and it'd be like you're having a full-blown conversation.
While asking these questions, what I ended up finding is that the people who were praising virtual reality were the same people in my own age group, that being people from ages 18 to 25. They seemed to be very enthusiastic about virtual reality becoming a lot more mainstream, because their experiences have all been very positive, and they already have a source to refer to and looking forward to the future of it. As the book says, effects on viewers' thoughts, emotions, or behavior depend on the degree of involvement with the message and behavioral intentions of the viewer. The example of that here being that someone who is getting started in the industry would pay a lot more attention to virtual reality as it's starting to take off, while someone who's been in the field for many years may not see it as something all that useful. I noticed that the only people who really had any issues with virtual reality were the people who were a little bit out of this age group. Not even someone in their 50s or 60s, just someone slightly older than the 18 to 25 age group that I mentioned before.
I can see where if someone becomes addicted to virtual reality, I can see where real life interaction might become a problem for them not to be involved.
One of the things that always irks me is when people wear those, wear virtual reality in public, when that is the most precarious thing you could do. If you're on a plane and you're on for long hours, that's one thing. But if we're talking something like, public transportation in terms of like a bus or something like that, or you're like out in the public when your smartphone could achieve this goal, I don't get it,
If virtual reality can continue to grow into something big and eventually lives up to all of the ideas that people have for it, we as people may become a lot more dependent on it. Like how cell phones used to be something that made things a little more convenient and quickly evolved to something that we now normally allow 5-year-olds to access. The greater the dependency upon a medium, the more likely that the medium will have effects upon the viewer. One of the 7 people interviewed for our research had only used virtual reality one time, and as a result was a lot less dependent on it. Meanwhile, another person we interviewed uses it on an almost daily basis, and has the desire to be able to use it for a lot more than he is right now. And as a result, he relies on it a lot more than other people normally would, as well as seeing the potential benefits of it a little more. But even people who've only had a handful of experiences but have been able to use it several times have been able to see the benefits of what it could be, and don't see being a little bit dependent on it as a negative thing.
Because it starts becoming more and more popular, people are always worried that, it's going to take over our lives. I think we're good at monitoring ourselves. I think for some people it will be a problem, but I think for the majority, I think it's an unfounded fear. I think it'd be best used as a tool for communication and learning and, exploring things.
After an extensive amount of research, there have been many different aspects involved in virtual reality that can deliver much value into the real world. And although there are some people who are highly against the idea of stepping more into the virtual world, one simply cannot underestimate the great potential it has to offer for the present and the future. The idea of expanding this form of media so that it's not exclusive to only entertainment and to introduce it into the workplace or for uses in everyday life is a great step forward for technology. The idea of being able to use virtual reality to conduct surgery, serve as a great visual tool in the courtroom, hold conferences with clients and coworkers across the globe, or even serve as a helping tool for those with disabilities shows just how much future potential this media has to offer. I think after interviewing the 7 people for this project, I can safely say that there is a fairly mutual agreement of what virtual reality could accomplish. Of course, there are those who have their problems with the media outlet, and if given the option would do something differently. But what I found from interviewing them was acknowledgement of its potential growth and future uses. I found that all people in my age range have very few negative things to say about virtual reality, and older people are able to think of some potential problems a little bit quicker. But I also found that people in a media field have different perspective on its value than people who are in a non-media field. I found how different experiences create different reactions. Some people were only interested in VR for gameplay purposes, while others directly criticized its use in video games.
I don't see people over relying on it, as in they need it for a job. I can see that they get addicted to it and they want it.
Right now, it's mostly used as a gaming device, and I think VR games are by and large pretty poor.
All in all, our research shows an interest in developing virtual reality even further, and I think our interviews for the most part backed up that interest.